Good evening, everyone, and welcome to Tuesday night Luke Live Online. I'm Father James DiLuzio, and you find me in my new office. This is the office of the Paulist Fathers, Ecumenical and Multi-Faith Relations, of which I am the director. It's here in the basement of the rectory of the Paulist Fathers in New York City. But let's get right to it. It's been a long day. I'm tired. Are you tired? Very good. All right, so let's see if this parable may refresh us or at least wake us up for a little bit before it's time to go to sleep. This is Luke chapter 16, verses 1 to 15. Jesus told this parable. There was a rich man whose steward was reported to him for squandering his property. So he summoned the servant, and he said to him, "What is this I hear about your stewardship? Provide a full accounting of your stewardship, because you can no longer be my steward." So the steward said to himself, "What am I to do now that the position of stewardship is taken away from me? I'm not strong enough to dig, and I am ashamed to beg. This is what I shall do. So when I am removed from the position of steward, they will welcome me into their homes." So he summoned his master's debtors one by one. To the first he said, "How much do you owe my master?" He replied, 100 measures of olive oil. And to him he said, "Here's your promissory note. Sit down quickly and write one for 50. To the other he said, "How much do you owe my master?" And he replied, 100 kilos of wheat. To him he said, "Here is your promissory note. Sit down and write one for 80. Now that master commended his dishonest steward for acting prudently. For the children of this world are more prudent in dealing with the children of this generation than are the children of light. Therefore, I tell you, make friends with yourselves with dishonest wealth, for when it fails, then you will be welcomed into eternal dwellings. For the person who is trustworthy in very small matters will also be trustworthy in great ones. But the person who is dishonest in very small matters will also be dishonest with great ones. If therefore you are trustworthy with dishonest wealth, if you are not trustworthy with dishonest wealth, who will trust you with true wealth? And if you are not trustworthy with what belongs to another, who will give you what is yours? No one can serve two masters. You either love one and hate the other, or you despise one and you love the other. You cannot serve both God and mammon. Now the Pharisees who loved money heard these things and sneered at him. But Jesus said to them, "You Pharisees, you like the esteem of others, but what is of human esteem is an abomination to God." The gospel of the Lord. Okay, so what do we make? I'm going to start from the back and move back to the early part of the parables and the conversation. What does Jesus say? Make friends with yourself with dishonest wealth. He doesn't want us to be dealing in with dirty money, corrupt under the table kind of stuff. He's just basically saying dishonest wealth. Has a dishonesty about it. We're very prone to idolatry with it, making that the center. I live to make money. Don't do it. Live for God, centered in your relationship with family, friends, and business people, make quality of the relationship and care for others. That's why we live. If the money follows, hallelujah, right? But if it doesn't, there's still quite a level of content, and we're not judging ourselves constantly by how the world gauges our successes and failures. If this is not a condemnation of all the Pharisees, it's very clear it's the Pharisees who loved money, those religious leaders who really put the emphasis on their incomes and maybe perhaps the income of their local synagogue in terms of where they find their self-worth and their prestige. Jesus is saying is don't do that. Don't anybody fall in, especially if you're leaders, because you're more prone to this temptation. Don't give in to numbers. Don't give in to money as your esteem or even the value of your work. For in most cases, there's not always immediate gratification or proper remuneration. There you go. Now, what about this dishonest steward, and why is he being praised for being... boy, this chair does squeak a lot, doesn't it? Why is he being commended for acting prudently? Well, on many different levels. The rich man recognizes that he's put this steward in a bind. We don't know exactly what he's done that's been dishonest, just that the owner has heard about it. But he sees the fellow really focusing more on relationships. Now, we don't know whether he actually has the authority to do so or not, but he does still have some authority until he's literally fired. He has to produce the books, and so he's taking the books and he's going to people and he's saying, look, this is a lot you owe. Why don't you cut it in half? Why don't you cut it by 20%? So that he really has relationships with people. It's a sign really of the kingdom, a kind of compassion. Which on some levels the world sees as dishonest. A kind of compassion, kindness. It's not all about the numbers. And not only then does the, quote, dishonest steward end up with some friends and some relationships, but actually the master's reputation has improved. People see him as more compassionate, more kind. Put that in conversation with the news, with President Biden's legislation to cancel some of that student debt for all those students who are drowning in all the money that they owe. So think about that. Put that in conversation. Thank you for joining me. Sorry, I'm a little tired tonight, but at least I persevered. So, as we all must with the gospel, isn't that the truth? God bless you all. Have a wonderful week. Join me for Friday night, Young at Heart. Good night, everyone.